The power and majesty of Mount St. Helens. Good evening once again.
Events of this magnitude are often so difficult to comprehend. We tend to break them down into little stories of heroism and tragedy and triumph. Stories that could happen to you or me.
By now you are no doubt familiar with the story of KOMO photographer Dave Crockett. Trapped on the mountain when it erupted, he stumbled through the darkness, and with his camera turned on, he narrated his own date with destiny.
My God, I never realized how badly I wanted to live. Oh, I wanted to live so bad.
As you know, Dave survived that nightmare, but while his life was spared that Sunday morning, it was also changed in ways that at the time he could never imagine. KOMO's Kerry Brock picks up the story of Dave Crockett.
After 7 grueling hours on St. Helens, Dave Crockett was finally rescued by a Coast Guard helicopter. He would spend that night recovering in a Longview hospital. The next day, he was an instant celebrity.
The film you saw a moment ago is just a small part of Dave's extraordinary experience yesterday.
Stephen Gear has a report on a cameraman who was there when it happened.
It was a miracle that he had survived.
I often think the living through the eruption and that whole thing was much easier than what happened when I got back.
He did grant countless interviews.
And the little valley in front of me, the road just exploded.
But then Hollywood agents were calling. He had movie offers and book offers and job offers. He turned them all down.
You know, I'm a TV news photographer. You know, I chose to work on the other side of the camera. And all of a sudden, I became the story. And that's not the way it's supposed to work, and I'm pretty uncomfortable with that.
And Dave became not only the survivor spokesman, but a link to all those who didn't get out.
In the weeks following the eruption, I got calls from people who had relatives missing, sons, daughters, husbands, wives. There wasn't much hope at that point, but they called me up and asked me, is there any chance, you know, you were there, is there any chance they got out?
That left Dave with a lot of guilt. For several years, he had nightmares. He's come to terms with it now, almost.
It's hard for me to see some of the pain it causes, David. That's real hard, because that's still with him. But in terms of the way the kids look at it, it doesn't even dawn on them how incredibly lucky he was.
He has allowed us to put him on stage again in honor of the 10-year anniversary, in recognition of his intensely personal experience with St. Helens.
If only I could keep walking, you know, only if I could do something. Only I could do something, you know. I was just sitting here. Yeah, I got the wrong attitude here. I mean, this would be something to tell my grandchildren about. Oh, man. At one point, when I was trying to get out of the eruption, I said something about having the wrong attitude, and someday I'll be able to tell my grandchildren about this. At that point in my life, I didn't even have a girlfriend. So look at me now. I've got, you know, really neat wife, 3 beautiful kids. It's quite a change. And then someday I'm going to have grandchildren to tell about it.
In his quiet way, Dave will tell you he doesn't think he is remarkable, that he was just doing his job on the mountain that day. In reality, he produced an extraordinary legacy of one of the most incredible events in history. Kerry Brock, KOMO, News 4.
By the way, this is Dave's 14th year as a KOMO news photographer. The spectacular pictures captured through Dave's lens can be yours to keep a little later in this newscast. We'll tell you how to get your own copy of the KOMO News documentary, Up from the Ashes. And of course, tomorrow on KOMO News 4 at 5 o'clock, we'll be coming to you live from Mount St. Helens. We'll take you on a tour of the mountain as it was then and as it is right now. For some folks, the ash that fell from Mount St. Helens was a little like cash out of the sky. A little later in this newscast, we'll show you some enterprising entrepreneurs who are managing to make a little bit of money off Mother Nature's fury. And now a wave of panic is spreading through the logging industry tonight.
Interior Secretary Manuel Lujan said today the spotted owl will be declared an endangered species. That would cost thousands of logging jobs. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service officials in our area are surprised because they say they're still in the process of reviewing whether to place the owl on the endangered list. KOMO's John Sharifi joins us right now from our newsroom with more on this story. John?
Dan, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is scheduled to release its decision on whether to list the spotted owl as threatened or endangered on June 23rd. That's more than a month away. The question tonight is, why did the Secretary of Interior jump the gun? Interior Secretary Manuel Lujan was addressing employees from his agency when he made the prediction. He said on June 23rd, the spotted owl is going to be declared endangered. That was certainly news to officials from the Fish and Wildlife Service. It's their job to make that recommendation. They say no final decision has been made.
To have the Secretary say such a comment in this way, this soon, is going to create an awful lot of panic in people.
Lujan also said when the owls become endangered, a lot of timber jobs will have to be closed down. The price to save the owl, by one estimate, is that by the end of the decade, 28,000 timber jobs would be cut in the Northwest. Ann Ghost lives in Forks, Washington, a town totally dependent on the timber industry.
Our community is going to be one of the most impacted, but so is Cedar Woolley, so is Darrington, so is Sweet Home, Oregon. There's thousands of little towns that are going to be impacted in a way that I don't think people can even imagine.
The endangered species designation would not only protect the owls in national forest, but also on state forest and private lands.
I must protect the species. That's what the law tells me to do. That, I guess, is the primary responsibility as far as the Endangered Species Act is concerned.
Now, if the spotted owl is designated as an endangered species, more than 2.5 million acres of federal land would be off limits to logging in the Northwest. Again, that decision won't be made until June 23rd. Dan?
Well, John, was the Secretary of the Interior telling us something that's actually going to happen, or is this his prediction?
That's a very good question. It's still unclear whether this was a prediction or whether he really knows what's going to happen.
John Sharifi, thank you.
There's been a terrible plane crash in the Philippines tonight. We have just received pictures from the scene of the accident in Manila. Information is still coming in, but we can tell you the plane crashed in a residential area, as you can see. At least 25 people have been killed in this crash. We'll have more information on this story as soon as it's available.
Police are stepping up the hunt for a sexual predator in North Seattle after a third young boy said he was kidnapped and abused. He says the attack took place near the Northgate shopping mall. Police are already investigating 2 earlier attacks on teenage boys that happened nearby. The suspect is described as a white male, 20 to 30 years old, 5 feet 10 to 6 feet tall, with short, dark, straight hair. In all 3 sexual assaults, the suspect wore jeans and a T-shirt. A Tacoma boy is recovering tonight from a sniper attack. 10-year-old Donnie Wick was warming up for a Little League game when a gunman fired several shots onto the field. One bullet went through Donnie's right arm and hit him in the stomach. Donnie's a tough kid, though. He says all he wants to do right now is get back to playing baseball. The search is on for a suspect.
It's the kind of murder mystery you'd expect from a Hollywood drama. But up next on KOMO News 4, the real-life drama unfolding for this son of a Hollywood legend.
And troubled times for the real Twin Peaks. Are townsfolk growing tired of sudden fame?
Not 3, not 2, but 1. One-coat Hammerite means you don't need a primer or an undercoat, and there's no unsightly rust. Sorry, Marvin. Just 1 generous coat stops rust on gates, garden furniture, swings, bikes, cars, oil rigs, and gives a tough hammered finish. Hammerite comes in 14, 14, 14! Thank you, Marvin. Attractive colors, plus white. Remember, no primer, no undercoat, no rust. That's 1-coat Hammerite with glass guards. All right!
Now available in aerosol.
Yeah, the meeting with Nakamura went great. The way he was talking, sounds like a done deal if we can deliver the plans by the 30th. Oh, we've got to give him a yes or no answer before he leaves town. Look, I got to go. He said he called from the airport. It's in the bag.
Don't miss those important calls. Call U.S. West for an extra line just for your special customers. U.S. West, making the most of your time.
At your neighborhood Safeway, we pay special attention to our produce. And it's our special care that guarantees everything you buy is garden fresh and bursting with flavor. This week, you'll find extra fancy, vine-ripened cantaloupe specially priced at just 37 cents a pound. The finest country fresh produce is just down the street at your neighborhood Safeway.
Safeway, we're what a neighbor should be.
Marlon Brando's eldest son is in jail tonight.
32-year-old Christian Brando is being held without bail for the murder of his sister's boyfriend. Brando was arrested at his father's estate. He admitted to police that he killed Dag Dorley. Brando claims Dorley was abusing his sister, and that's why he shot him. Cheers star Kelsey was in court today. A judge sentenced him to 30 days in jail and 10 days of collecting highway trash for violating probation. Earlier this year, Grammer, who plays Dr. Fraser Crane on Cheers, was convicted of drunk driving. He was sentenced to an alcohol education program which he failed to finish.
Twin Peaks. Not only are they talking about it, they're writing about it. ABC's quirky mystery drama is generating coverage in everything from the New York Times to TV Guide. And as KOMO's John Larson reports, Snoqualmie, where the series was filmed, is getting more than its share of the limelight.
The Detroit News reports the giant trees here have all been cut. TV Guide says the local pie crust melts in your mouth like a butter cookie. Star Magazine says there are chainsaw duels in the streets. Well, that's Star for you. Twin Peaks and Snoqualmie may have received more publicity recently than the Alaskan oil spill. Local leaders keep score. Who's been interviewed the most?
TV Guide, Entertainment Tonight, LA, West Palm Beach Radio.
Is it the cafe owner?
New York Times, USA Today, People's Magazine, New Week.
The police chief.
People Magazine, Detroit News.
Big Ed, the hamburger man.
Evening was here.
The local chainsaw dealer.
Entertainment Tonight was through.
I think the reporters just start at one end of the town and come through.
The mayor's been interviewed so much, she's reportedly fed up.
The LA Times.
There are so many reporters.
What kinds of things do they say?
Asking so many questions, we trip over one another. Those guys are from a Bellevue radio station. This guy's from the Seattle Times.
Is there anybody in here who was not from the media?
Well, I think so.
Oh, that's nice.
In fact, just about the only newspaper in the entire nation which hasn't gone Twin Peaks crazy, thank you, that's terrific coffee, is the local paper right here in Snoqualmie, the Valley Record.
Its editor does not think very much of all the reporters.
Locust was the image that I had.
Or the story.
No, I don't have a television. Haven't for quite a while.
But he does have a city council to cover. And he knows stories like Twin Peaks are much more interesting if you don't live there.
The Philadelphia Inquirer.
John Larson, KOMO News 4, Snoqualmie.
And Detroit News.
Is anybody in here?
By the way, next week is Twin Peaks' final episode of the year, and there's still been no decision on whether the show will come back next season.
I hope it comes back so we can do more stories. Those are funny. Will we be getting a cool reception from Mount St. Helens tomorrow? Steve Poole has the forecast next.
And the Spurs are hot. Just ask the Blazers. Bruce King with all the slams and jams from the NBA up next.
It's Car Wars 1990. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the South parking lot of the Northgate Mall. Many of Puget Sound's top volume dealers will be battling to become #1 with the lowest prices ever offered in the Northwest. Over 2,000 cars and trucks in most makes and models will be on display at unheard of wartime prices. Plus, major banks will be standing by to shoot out instant financing for your convenience. This is your war, consumers, and it's one fight you won't want to miss. So charge to Car Wars 1990, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Northgate Mall.
Buying 35mm film is never easy.
I'm confused.
It's all very simple.
There's 100.
For inside and out.
Unless it's too dark or too bright.
And then change to 400.
Or you could push it to 800.
If you don't mind the gray.
But it is faster.
Depending on the condition.
Well, then you use 1,000.
Of course.
Change to 400?
Introducing 35mm Polaroid One Film. With one film, you can get beautiful pictures in bright light, low light, inside and out. New 35mm One Film. For beautiful pictures, the choice is easy.
Take me to your flower for tomatoes. I'll have a garden salad.
There's a small army of slugs and snails sliming its way toward your garden right now.
A free bean salad.
And they're planning on having your flowers and vegetables for dinner, unless you serve them some Corey's instead.
No, we just ate some Corey's. Yeah.
Corey's, now in the new liquid or in the ever-popular granular
and
formula.
me with no life insurance.
It's so good, slugs and snails, love us to death.
What's a Kwinto?
I
couldn't tell you. Come on.
An Italian running shoe?
Spanish bingo.
Not quite.
The Nino, the Kwinto, and the Cento.
No.
That's not a Kwinto.
Kwinto is the lottery's new weekly card game where matching our cards could win you $100,000 or thousands if you're one of many second prize winners.
A what?
Well, we have some great stories and some great views tomorrow when we do our 5 o'clock newscast live from Mount St. Helens, if it's
It was
clear.
not nice up there today. I can tell you that from firsthand experience.
It will be better tomorrow. My only hope is that we can get the ceiling raised high enough that we can let everybody see the mountain and what it looks like at that time. We're going to have to struggle to do it because those clouds are awfully stubborn this time of year. They're hanging around right now outside where it's 52 degrees. Our wind coming from the west at 8 miles per hour. See, the barometer is falling right now, and we've had no measurable rainfall in the last 24 hours. Some tonight, just a touch in our KOMO rain gauge, not enough to measure. 61 degrees was our high temperature today. 64 would be average for this time of year. I think tomorrow we'll get a little closer to 64, but not much. Grasses and trees, the culprits with regard to our pollen count. The level is low, allergy sufferers, and tomorrow it'll stay at about that level, so you still should be in pretty good shape. We have talked so often over the past several days about all the problems they're having on the southern plains with the rain and the flooding. Well, guess what's back? While they got some clearing yesterday, the showers are returning tomorrow. In fact, if you're going anywhere from about Kansas City to Dallas, I'd take that umbrella along with you. You'll need it. Down the desert southwest, it will be comfortable to warm, and there'll be plenty of sunshine there. And they'll get some clearing along the eastern seaboard, too. They've had some rain all up and down the Atlantic coastline, but that's going to change for those folks tomorrow. Here in the northwest, we continue to bring in the low-lying clouds that are out over the ocean. We call that onshore flow. Nothing in the way of a major organized weather system, just those clouds meandering in at night, and then the sun working on them throughout the day to clear them away. We'll do that again tomorrow and hopefully do a little bit better job about getting some sunshine by tomorrow afternoon. Now, tonight in general, you notice there are a few showers around the area. We've had some reported. That will continue throughout the evening. Temperatures will be comfortable, let's call it. Upper 40s. We'll go mid-40s in Bremerton. 49 degrees expected up on Whidbey Island in Oak Harbor. Now, tomorrow in general, we're just looking for some clearing in the afternoon. This would be our hope anyway. We're certainly going to start off with the clouds and maybe a little bit of drizzle. High temperatures will get into the low 60s in Seattle and in Bellevue and down in Tacoma and Olympia as well. A little cooler as you might expect up at Bellingham Way, 59 for you folks tomorrow. Throughout western Washington, clouds are going to be, as I mentioned, pretty stubborn. We, again, look for some clearing in the afternoon, and that would apply even over on the coast, where high temperatures will be in the mid to upper 50s. That freezing level in the Cascades will be around 7,000 feet. Afternoon pass temperature about 42 degrees, about the temperature that we expect at Mount St. Helens when we are down there tomorrow afternoon. Looking east of the Cascades, they've had a few thunder showers over in the northeast corner of the state. Those will be around tomorrow morning, then begin to diminish. We'll say partly sunny skies for those folks. Mid-60s to upper 60s, 72 expected in the Tri-Cities. Now to the waters, there is a small craft advisory through the Strait of Juan de Fuca this evening. 20 to 30 knots, that's a little breezy, isn't it? But variable winds on the inland waters, pretty light, and on the coast, westerly to northwesterly, about 10 to 20 knots tonight and tomorrow morning. So we'll call it partly cloudy tonight, but we will get some showers in some areas in the mid-40s this evening. Tomorrow morning, mostly cloudy, still a drizzle or two here or there, and then partial clearing in the afternoon, 59 to 63, our temperature range. A little bit better day on Saturday now. I think we'll get more sunshine in the afternoon, but by Sunday and by Monday, we're going right into a change. Change to what, you ask? Oh, no more of this clouds and light drizzle. We'll get some real rain by Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, we're going the other way.
Yeah, the wrong direction.
Well, yeah, well, at least it's changing. That'd be nice for us in the weather department. We were getting kind of bored with this. We want something else.
Thank you. Sure. Bruce is here now with sports. I'll bet you the Trailblazers are glad to be heading back to Portland.
Oh, yeah, they get a chance, they feel, back there. Home court, you know, has been an advantage in the Portland-San Antonio Western Conference semifinal series. Tonight, that advantage continued. The Spurs 112-97 win at home. Tough night for the Portland Trailblazers. Clyde Drexler is rejected inside. The Spurs then get the ball, go the other way. Willie Anderson with 2 of his game-high 30 points. Drexler wasn't around for the finish. He elbows Anderson, thrown out of the game. A frustrating 112-97 loss for Coach Rick Adelman's Portland team.
2 players out, and they throw our best player out of the game. It's a factor. You know, I mean, I don't know, it's frustration, you know. It seems like we keep going to the basket and nothing's there, and they turn around and, you know, if Robinson blinks, he goes to the line.
So the series is now tied with Game 7 set for Saturday in Portland. The winner will play Phoenix. In baseball, the Mariners climbed to the 500 mark today. They clobbered the Toronto Blue Jays 14-6 for their 4th straight win. The surprise hero, shortstop Brian Giles. In the 3rd with 2 on, Giles hits this drive to right off Jimmy Key. It will fly away for a 3-run homer. The Mariners score 9 runs in the 3rd. Move to the 5th, bases loaded. Giles hits this long drive to left off Frank Wills for the first grand slam of his career. Giles, who had just 6 career home runs going into the game, drove in 7 runs as the Mariners win it 14-6. Catcher Dave Valley, who had to leave the game with an injury, suffered bruised ribs, but is reported to be okay. The Mariners open a 3-game series in Cleveland tomorrow. Ken Griffey Jr. went 1 for 5 today, but still leads the American League in hitting. Edgar Martinez is 4th. Other American League games, the Twins get by the Yankees in a game played in the fog. The White Sox win their 6th straight. The Tigers defeat the Rangers in 10. And the struggling California Angels lose again. Dave Winfield grounds out as a pinch hitter. In the National League, the Braves hand Neil Heaton his first loss after 11 wins. That's 11 straight wins dating back to last year. The Cardinals shut out the Reds, and it was the Astros over the Cubs by a score of 5-4. Husky baseball team lost their first game in the Pac-10 Northern Division tournament tonight in Yakima. Oregon State defeated Washington 3-1. Huskies meet Gonzaga in a loser-out game tomorrow afternoon. Also a tough night for the PLU women's softball team. They lost 1-0 to Wisconsin Parkside at the NAIA National Tournament. Now, despite that loss, the Lutes can still win the national championship in Pensacola, Florida. There is a new leader after 26 games in the Greater Seattle Open. Former Tacoma resident Brian Voss has moved on top, averaging just over 227. Match play continues tomorrow morning at 11 at the Skyway Park Bowl in Renton. I traveled to Lake Stevens High School today to present our Prep Athlete of the Month award to a young man who is a track star, an all-state football player, and a state wrestling champion. So it's with great pleasure and excitement that we at KOMO Television on this day have an opportunity to present a special award to an outstanding athlete at Lake Stevens High School. It's Richie Chambers. Richie.
I'd like to thank the staff for being around and supporting all of us, and the coaches that directed us along through our victories and our great athletic accomplishments this year. I'd also like to thank KOMO for their recognition of this award, and thank you all. I love you all.
Oh, yeah, nice young man, he really is. Pacific Coast League action tonight. Tacoma defeats Colorado Springs at Colorado Springs. By score, I believe it was 6-5.
All right, thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Now, a question for you. How can you make a profit off a pile of worthless ash?
Plenty of people are doing it. We'll show you how a stash of St. Helens ash is like money in the bank. Next.
When Mount St. Helens erupted on May 18, 1980, it seared the very life out of the land. In the heart of the blast zone, little that was alive and above the ground survived. Hauser went to work immediately on its tree farm site, first clearing fallen timber, then planting new trees, more than 18 million of them. Today, some of those trees are more than 25 feet tall. They're green and growing. Wild animals have returned along with the forest. The elk are back, so are the birds. The rivers run clean and clear. The steelhead have returned to spawn. It's all possible when we give nature a helping hand with our most precious renewable resource, trees. Hauser, the tree-growing company.
The Bon Marché semi-annual foundation sale is here with savings of 25% on all your favorite styles, like Olga's soft body satin collection, Bally's everyday basic bras and control briefs, the Chantilly collection from Maidenform, Dior Radiance from Christian Dior Intimates, and the entire stock of Jockey for Her. Plus, take advantage of our expert in-store fitters. Save 25% now during the Bon Marché semi-annual foundation sale.
If I was the guy at Jack in the Box dreaming up new sandwiches and I could do anything I wanted,
I'd take juicy sliced sirloin right off the grill, smother it with grilled onions and lots of cheese, and melt it all together. Guess what? Somebody beat me to it.
The new sirloin cheesesteak. Sliced sirloin smothered with grilled onions and melting cheese on a toasted steak roll at Jack in the Box.
Give that man a raise.
What is luxury? Luxury is when the 278 horsepower, 4.5-liter V8 engine of the Infiniti Q45 kicks in. And the only thing you hear is yourself saying, I think I like this.
Just before this newscast, we gave you a dramatic look back at the events surrounding the eruption of Mount St. Helens. And you can have your own VHS copy of Up From the Ashes by mailing a check or money order for $10 to Up From the Ashes, KOMO News 4, 100 4th Avenue North, Seattle, 98109.
The eruption of Mount St. Helens created some big problems, but it also created some big business. KOMO's Keith Eldridge reports the ash thrown into the air fell back to earth right into the hands of some entrepreneurs.
The ash choked the air and covered the ground. People in the path of the ash cloud didn't know what to do with what they considered worthless material. But in the hands of the right people, the powder is pure profit. Mount St. Helens ash is as good as gold. At the Ballard studios of the Glass Eye, the ash is turned into glass, which is turned into cash. The company started with one glass blower, but once the mountain blew and the ash was added to the mix, the firm grew to 40 employees and a multi-million-dollar business.
Just provides a little bit of differentiation from our glass from everybody else's. So, yeah, it still sells. Mount St. Helens is big. 10 years later, it's still happening.
The tourist shops are crammed full of items made with Mount St. Helens ash. Some are artistic. Others are pure Americana.
I guess this is like the salt, this is the pepper or something. I don't know.
Jennifer Simonson had no idea so many things could be made with ash. She was particularly intrigued by the soapstone sculptures.
I personally didn't know they were made out of the ashes, and it's interesting that they can make it out of that with so much detail and stuff. So.
Then there are the classy products, such as a cube of ash and pens filled with ash, even a hand soap.
This is St. Helens soap. It's the only soap made with Mount St. Helens pumas.
It's not often you can buy a piece of history, but with a little cash, you can stash some ash. Keith Eldridge, KOMO News 4.
I even have a pen here filled with Mount St. Helens ash.
I should have filled my pockets with it today when I was up there.
Well, it would have been mud today.
This is true. Have a good evening. Thanks for joining us. Hope you'll join us tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We'll be live at Mount St. Helens.
Good night.
Good night.